All right, so Jim Benning came out and he was frustrated the other night with the Canucks' effort and with them being beaten to the pucks by San Jose. And there are reasons to believe that Travis Green, there are fans who think he might be on his way out. And maybe Jim Benning being frustrated means we could see a change somehow in the Vancouver coaching situation. Which, of course, then would lead to rumors about, well, would Babcock come in? What about DeBoer? What about, and then name almost any coach that gets fired and recycle and repeat. Now, the interesting thing is Travis Green was really groomed for this job. He was brought up to be the coach, and that was really, honestly, the path that you could see coming a mile away, that he was going to be their coach. But they have allowed the first goal in 22 out of 34 games this year. And that is a problem. Preparation. So if you're only getting the first goal in 12 out of 34 games, you're not ready. And you're playing from behind in a league where that's really a bad position to be in. And I'm probably understating it, to be honest. So on that front, you can say, yep, that's on Travis Green. But you can also say it could be on Jim Benning for not giving him a roster that comes out really strong out of the gates. Now, the first argument with Jim Benning is going to be the fact there's no cap space. Now, we can debate which contracts are poor, but I'm going to say this. Sutter at $4.37 million. I love Brandon Sutter. I think he's a great player. I also think $4.37 million for Sutter right now is too much. And he's not an unrestricted free agent this summer. There's still one more year left in that deal. Beagle at $3 million. As much as I love Jay Beagle, probably overpaid a little bit by the Vancouver Canucks. Eriksson, we all know the $6 million a year. It's that giant elephant that everybody deals with that's in the room and everybody yells about it, and then they'll pretend they're not. And that's right there, $13 million for Sutter, Beagle, and Eriksson. And you can't be doing that when you're not a very great team. And then I've got Myers in brackets, and here's why. At $6 million a year for 5 years, there are people who are going to take any chance they can to take shots at Tyler Myers. I think Myers has been good. I don't think he's been great. I do think that he can give more offensively than we've seen so far, but he provides something completely different than what they had on that blue line. Is it a high price tag? That's what happens on unrestricted free agent day. You have to be willing to pay more than other teams. Now, I don't see Myers' contract as being a major problem, but all of the contracts together are a problem. So can Travis Green say, hey, I don't have the right team here? Now, you look at some of the better teams in the league, and I'm talking about Boston, I'm talking about Washington, and Colorado. And these teams, generally, bottom six guys are paid like bottom six guys, and they don't get those big money contracts. And you'll see guys play well in Boston, and then they want a big contract, and Boston goes, sorry. And for those guys, they move out, and then they bring new guys in. And every year I get worried as a Boston fan that those new guys coming in could throw things off. Maybe they won't be as good, and then they are. They're pretty darn good players. So there's some really good pro scouting done. And with Vancouver, I do wonder about the pro scouting. You can be a cap team. You can be at the cap. You can be a bad team. You can't be both. And right now with Vancouver, they are flirting with, again, being both. The record underneath the coaching of Travis Green. They were 31, 40, and 11 that first year. 6-3 and 2 in October. Then they lost 14 out of 16 from December 7th to January 9th. And that submarined that season for them. Last season, of course, 35, 36, and 11. They started out 8 and 6 in October. They lost 12 out of 13 from November 10th to December 4th. This year, they're 16, 14, and 4. They were 8-3 and 1 in October. They lost 7 out of 8 from November 5th to 19th. This is a team that gets off to pretty decent starts, and then the wind's gone out of their sails. And once it starts to cascade downhill against them, they don't seem to have an answer. Alain Vigneault, who I think was the best coach the Canucks ever had, he had a problem with this. And it usually showed up in the playoffs, where as soon as the other team would make adjustments to whatever the Canucks were doing, or the other team would just be better than the Canucks out of the gate, there weren't adjustments made by the Canucks to fix it. And so again, Travis Green you can look at these losing streaks and either say, well, those teams weren't good enough, or his coaching is part of the problem. So again, your belief that Travis Green needs to go has to be based on this team is good enough to win right now. Or if you look at the roster and go, it's probably not Green's fault, then Benning. And Benning, the problem he has right now is the pending unrestricted free agents this year. And I didn't put all of them up here because some of them are not really consequential. Chris Tanev, if he goes, that's a major loss on the blue line. Josh Levo at $1.5 million, he probably gets a bit of a raise over that, I would think. Maybe, maybe not. And Markstrom. Markstrom is this giant issue that's getting bigger and bigger as the season goes along. Demko doesn't look ready to be the starter. And DiPietro, I don't know if I want him being the backup yet next year. So Markstrom, the way he's been playing, he's pretty good. So the issue that Jim Benning's going to have is when we get to the trade deadline, if you believe in Demko, you kind of need to trade Markstrom then as a rental at the deadline. What are you going to get back? And then with Markstrom off the books, that helps, I guess. They have $17 million in cap space next summer, which looks like a lot, but if they re-sign Tanev, Levo, or Markstrom, that's going to drop. And if they don't re-sign any of them, they're going to need to bring in veterans to play in those spots. You can't just keep getting younger, and then hope to get better. And not only that, but that $17 million is going to get eaten up. Gaudette and Virtanen are both RFAs this summer. Virtanen's going to get a raise. For all the people who want to, talk about Virtanen sucks, not this year. He's playing pretty darn well. And Gaudette has played pretty well as well. So if both of them have really good runs from here, they could both get healthy raises and eat into that $17 million pretty quick. And then you have to look at next year. Next year you have Pettersson and Hughes. Both of them are due next summer. 2021 could be D-Day for the Vancouver Canucks. You have to look at this cap space next summer and go, yeah, we got $17 million, but do we? Because you've got contracts coming off the books in 2021, absolutely. However, these guys are going to get a lot of money. For Travis Green right now, it's a tough situation because I don't think the Canucks are good enough. And I don't know if the lack of being able to score first is completely on him. But we're into year 3, and we've seen a lot of coaches go by the wayside already this year. And it's been a mixed bag about whether it's helped a team or not when it comes to switching coaches. But Calgary got a whole lot better when they were kind of forced into getting rid of Bill Peters. Toronto gets rid of Babcock. They got better on in terms of their advanced stats and some of their stats. Their win-loss record has been similar, but it seems like it's getting better under Sheldon Keefe. So do things get better for Vancouver if they move on from Travis Green? That might be the easiest answer for Jim Benning, because otherwise, if this team misses the playoffs again, and if they end up with a record in the 35, 36, and 11 range, and right now, they're not far off of that. Now, you can look and go, well, they're 2 games above 500. Well, NHL 500, yes, but they're trending in the wrong direction. And they've been trending in the wrong direction since the end of October. October every year seems to give Canuck fans this really good feeling like we're in this. All right, this is the year. This is it. And then November happens and we go, what happened? We were good. And then this all fell apart. So I'm not sure what the answer is to this, because the Canucks have been pretty lousy since the end of the 2014-2015 season. And the blame has to go somewhere at this stage. Now, if you look at attendance, how much pressure is there on the team to change things? Not much, according to attendance. Right now, the Canucks have 18,579 fans per game. 98.2% is their capacity. Last year, 18,022 fans, capacity of 95.3%. The year before that, 18,078, or 95.6%. The last time they went to the playoffs, 2014-2015, 18,710, or a capacity of 98.9%. And then 2010-2011, the bandwagon was pretty overflowing, 18,860, or a percentage of 100.3 as standing room tickets were sold for that. But the interesting thing is this. they're only about 300 fans a game below where they were during that insane season in 2010-2011 when they were the best team in the league during the regular season, when they had this incredible winning run. So, how much pressure is there for ownership right now? And is it a matter of ownership looking at the regular season attendance and going, yeah, we're pretty close to where we were during our last run in the playoffs and during that amazing 2010-2011 season, but we'd really like to have some gates in the playoffs. Teams make their money in the playoffs. Francesco Aquilini, for all the talk people have about him getting involved, he should keep his nose out of it. There's millions and millions of dollars involved if they make the first round. Just let's say they just get 2 home gates in the first round and they get swept. Those 2 home gates in the first round, it's millions of dollars for the ownership and for the team. The Vancouver Canucks, in not having made the playoffs since 2015, this is a very symbolic season. If this one falls apart, now their first round draft pick, which everybody freaks out that they gave up to get JT Miller, JT Miller's been fantastic. So none of this has been on him for the most part. I know there's people who get mad at him for certain plays, but in general, his play's been fantastic. That first round draft pick comes back to Vancouver if they don't make the playoffs this year. If they don't make the playoffs this year, Jim Benning may be out anyways. And this was something I said when the JT Miller trade happened. It is really important to Benning that this team shows some kind of upward momentum. Improvement in their offense. Improvement across the board so that he can go to Aquilini at the end of this year and go, I got us back in the playoffs. We're on the upswing. We're good. It is a tough slog in the NHL. And the toughest part is, while the Canucks are still languishing below that playoff line with this record, other teams that fell out of the playoffs, maybe even after 2015, have got back into them. And a team like, for instance, Winnipeg, everything fell apart for them in the offseason. Their defense is complete garbage now. What are they going to do? And they've actually played really, really well. They're 20-11-2 right now, while Vancouver's stuck at 16-14-4. At some point, somebody's job is going to go. It's just not possible that we go through 3 full years of Travis Green and Jim Benning with the way things are trending, which is in the wrong direction. They've only won 16 out of 34. So we need to see this as true 500. They won 31 games out of 82, 35 games out of 82. Now they've won 16 out of 34. They're still winning less than half of their games. I support the team, obviously. I support the team. I've been a Canucks fan for a very, very long time. And I've seen this storyline played out before. Now, the one thing about the idea of, Travis Green, they should move on from him. The problem with that is who comes in and replaces him. Who's been groomed by this organization, or who can they bring in from outside this organization that's going to work? And I remember when Tortorella came in after Vigneault was taken out with the idea that Tortorella was a taskmaster, and that was what this team needed. So there would be some people out there who would say, well, Mike Babcock would be a good choice for the Canucks. They're a young enough team that it could work. I'm not sure which veteran would get Spezza on this Canucks team. I'm not sure which veteran on this team he would have that he could single out. I think this could be good. I think that could be a good thing, but short term. The Canucks are in this. The issue going back over to the Benning side of the board as well is when you're up against the cap and you've got these contracts that aren't expiring this summer and you may not have cap space to bring people in, how does this improve? Which prospects coming in next year that you can look at and say, yep. Now, Podkolzin looks like he's going to be great. He's not coming in next year. He's coming in the year after. And again, for Jim Benning, he is well aware that if this team continues to languish like this, he will be the guy who's on the outs. I think Benning's done some good things. I think Benning's made some signings that were risky and didn't pay off. And I think Benning is a guy who we may look at sort of along the same lines as like a Ron Francis in Carolina or a Garth Snow with the Islanders, where there's a lot of criticism at the time he's there, but the guy who replaces him comes in, makes a couple little tweaks here and there, and suddenly the team's pretty darn good. So we look at Lou Lamoriello with the Islanders, he's done a great job, but a lot of the pieces were there when Garth Snow was running it. Carolina under Don Waddell, things are going great, but a lot of those pieces were there when Ron Francis was running it. So that's where the argument comes in that maybe moving on from Benning would make the most sense. But for Vancouver fans, I don't know how long this attendance stays up. If this team continues to trend down, I would think that 98% turns into 97, then 96. But 95% attendance is still pretty good by NHL standards. And there isn't really a whole lot of pressure to make things better when fans are still coming out. Just ask Toronto, where for decades fans will sell out that building while the team on the ice can be absolutely awful. So the fans, I don't think the pressure's ever really been there to make things better from the fans. But the lack of playoff gates definitely puts some pressure here and here. So the question is, does Benning go? Does Green go? And if I had to be a betting man right now, I would say Green goes because it's easier. Benning just got an extension. They're not going to get rid of Benning unless they look at the return with Myers. They look at some of the other contracts and they say, you know what? We gave you an extension, but that was probably the wrong decision to make. And they cut him. And they move on to somebody else. For the Canucks, tonight they play against Montreal, and it's a really big game. If they fall to 16, 15, and 4, gets a whole lot worse. Losing at home against Montreal, a team that has had its struggles themselves. And just the optics get worse. And then they got Vegas coming in on Thursday, and Vegas is playing very, very well and just beat them handedly a couple days ago. So this is definitely a situation where things could cascade downwards. And so the question I have for Canuck fans is this. I know there's a lot of people who want to see Green go. I know there are people who may have the argument against Benning. Or do you say, you know what? Can them both. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Because I honestly do wonder with all the coaches that have been fired so far. I get asked in the live stream we have on Patreon about whether this is the most chaotic coaching has been in terms of NHL level coaches being fired. No. The 1983 Hockey News Annual I have, they point out that over a 12-month period, 14 out of 21 teams fired their coaches. That's 66% of the league fired their coaches in 12 months. So it is not unusual. It may have been more steady a couple years ago where no coaches got fired during the regular season, but it's the easy decision to make. Your team's still mediocre? Can the coach? Brock Besser's not shooting the puck enough? Can the coach? Pettersson's numbers are really, really good, but they're not like in the stratosphere where everybody thought he would be. Can the coach? Injury problems? Can the coach? And as ridiculous as it sounds, that's what happens. I could have put Ferland's contract up here too, but Ferland, I'm still on the fence because he hasn't played enough. So again, it'll be interesting to see if ownership steps in, and they've done it before, where ownership will overstep. Some people think it's overstepping, and I just say it's looking at your investment, deciding whether or not you're getting a good return on it. But it is an interesting situation in Vancouver, and it might be really suitable that for the 50th anniversary they chose these, although I was in favor of the Flying V for the 50th anniversary, and the Flying V would have been perfect for this, because when the Canucks had the Flying V as their logo on their jersey, they never once had a winning season. It didn't happen. So we'll see how things go from here. So are you still optimistic as a Canuck fan, or have you come to the decision that this could be another lost season? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.